recorded for posterity.
Yes. We're intellectual property prints. Ryan and I are best buddies, and we started this company together about a year ago. Ryan got his MFA from RISD, which you can talk about a little bit. I call you a wizard.
Yeah, I did my MFA at RISD in printmaking. Moved out to LA like 2 years ago, and just started becoming a printmaker for a lot of the LA-based artists, producing prints. And then I met Daniel, who knew all these awesome artists, and I was like, you know what, we should produce prints together and then also sell them together. So that's kind of how we got started. And it's been
almost 2 years to figure that out, though. We're like, what should we do? What should we do? Oh, and then we had this catalyst where the Venice Art Walk, which is this big annual event that happens in Venice Beach to raise money for the Venice Family Clinic, said, Daniel, you're a young art writer. What can you bring to us to make it exciting? And I was like, oh, I have a print company, even though it didn't exist yet. So we ended up making about 10 prints for that event and forming the company from it. Yeah. And then, my background is I write for all these art websites. And we threw a pizza social right here at the compound, which was amazing. Yeah, it was so awesome. So I recommend everyone in the universe throws pizza socials. So we'll get into it with some of our pieces.
Yeah, so we brought just a few recent additions we published this past few months with some artists. This is Augustine Coffey, who he had never produced a screen print before. He's known for his big murals and his painting. And we really liked his work and thought it would make a good screen print. So we approached him and we wanted to do a screen print by hand, no reproductions,
no digital stuff.
Yeah. And really go through the whole process of how to create the layers, how to create the print. It took him literally a day to make the drawing and the film. It was so quick, and to understand all the transparency and how it creates the different colors.
When he painted it, how it worked is we gave him these transparent sheets of acetate, about 5 of them, which is just like overhead projector paper, but meant to retain ink. And he has to paint each layer of this print, what becomes the different colors, in black ink. So when he's looking at it, it's just black on black on black on black, and it looks like this giant rectangle, essentially, in the end. So it's kind of this strange process for most artists because they're not used to seeing their work like that. Like these ones, you want to imagine it with the blue and the yellow and the red, not just as one black. I'm blanking on the name of the shape because hexagon. Yeah. So he made a little sketch to see what he was doing on an album cover. It's kind of interesting. He likes to work on found objects. And then from there, he did these, what is essentially the P, or the outlines of the black area. And then the next sheet filled in another area and thought that would be orange. And then you spray paint on the next one to get all these crazy textures. Yeah.
How much is the artist involved in the print process, and how much of you guys kind of handle it?
Completely. We don't like to just be email us a JPEG and we'll print it out for you. We want the artist to come into the studio and work with us one-on-one for the entire process. And if the artist can't, then we're going to go to them, no matter where they are, and have them do it there. So it's a learning process for us and also for the artist. And it's funny because now Augustine has gone on to produce 4 more print editions with other publishing companies.
Nice.
And he's like, you guys took my print virginity. Almost definitely.
And an example of this print, he started Graffiti Futurism when that whole movement, he's a big player in that. So on the Banksy online forums, people were claiming that they had photographs of our print, before he had even finished the films. And we're like, what? Did someone sneak into our studio? What's going on here? And we released it at an event, and then within 5 minutes of putting it online, the entire edition was sold out, which was really crazy.
Yeah, that's the joy of working, with artists that maybe they're established in one medium, but they haven't been able to do prints yet. It's something everybody can take home.
Yeah, the people coming to get the print were they were it was $75, but it was for them it was mainly it was their groceries or the print. People of them were afraid to hand us their card. Yeah. But that turned out to be really awesome. Or I can like, I'll bring it up close. Should I like bring it like this? Awesome.
So this is another print we recently published with Doug Cooper, and she also had never done a screen print before. This was her first ever handmade screen print. So
She has 18,000 followers on Instagram.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll get into that. Ryan has 24,000 followers. Yeah. Yeah. And she's really built her followers from posting tutorials about how she draws, because she's like really technical about how she does things. So if it's a gouache painting, it'll be like the sketch, then the next step, and then layering and layering. And that helps build an audience because people are interested in how you do things. So for this, again, like hand painted on these acetate sheets, everything when she was looking at it was black on black on black on black, so it was a different rectangle, a horizontal rectangle. And she had to understand that like this kind of mid-tone here is actually the same gray as its background. And it's just a transparent red layered over it that makes it up. But Ryan knows more the technical side, I'm more the social element.
So yeah, that was a fun print to work on. This one sold out within like a day or two. So we were making it.
Here, I'll do the zoom in. Oh, I can pass it to you guys to actually like look at it too. Yeah, so it's like even the scratch marks on here, she had to understand that to leave that space open in the red, but like add it in the gray area, and she had to redo it several times to get it right. The nice thing about doing stuff by hand is when we do the proofs for the artists, they can always add another layer to it later.
And that's why we like to have the artists in the studio with us, so that they can constantly like retweaking things and like remaking screens, adding more into it. Yeah.
And it's a fun experience when they actually come in, like Gregory.
Yeah. Gregory was an interesting character to work with because I mean he had never done a handmade screen print either. He's had screen prints made, but for other people had printed it. And so he came in, and we ended up releasing 2 prints with him. One of them was just like this kind of like zigzaggy line, which we gave him the materials, and he just grabbed one of the markers and just like did it on a piece of acetate, and he's like, "That's it, that's the print."
Yeah.
And we're like, okay.
No, but it wasn't like that. It was like, "Yo, dog, this is the print." He's like, "You guys are Gandalf wizards, bro." He's a really funny guy.
I sure.
Thank you. I got it for my birthday, a burrito. I want to do the reveal stuff later. Yeah. Yes. I wish we printed this. So yeah, he came into our studio and he knew he wanted to use the American flag in his own way because he gets really intensely addicted to like doing one thing for a little while as like Americana. So he started up here in the upper left and then just did like 100 faces in one line. And so like Ryan's in there, I'm in there, Ryan's cat is in there, Rococo, and Coca-Cola, just different things he loves, but only Gregory can read it. He can tell you.
Like doing this print with Gregory, like he has more Tumblr followers than any other artist on Tumblr. He has such
100,000 plus.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. But so I mean, most of his work is street art. It's all on the street. So we put out this print, and just like the other ones, it was gone instantly. So it really shows like the importance of having a social media presence and like focusing in on just one social media to gain a network online, and then utilizing that network to get your work out.
Yeah.
You know?
For a while, his website was only his Tumblr. It was called like Gregory Loves You or something. It was something like Greg Loves You or something like that. And it was all just photos of him painting and his different things. He was even like, when he first started, he would like paint on marshmallows and leave them in the city because he didn't want to vandalize anything. Yeah. And what we say like we're the intellectual property prints, and then our packaging said like hand printed by wizards, and that was all started by Gregory being like, "Yo, you're Gandalf, bro. You're Gandalf." Another artist, Christine Wu, has 16,000 followers on Instagram. Just built up her own character, like posting about her life and her art, and she's got like a wild mohawk.
But she shares a lot of her process online. She's always taking close-up details of how she's like doing gold leafing on her paintings, or how she like does her work. So people get really engaged, and they like that interaction with artists. They like to have that closeness with the artists that they're interested in. So it's really helped build up a whole network for a lot of the artists we work with.
And then this is one of those rare examples where we did some digital elements, because Christine draws her sketches like really small. They're only in like that really basic moleskin that you can get. And then how she works on her paintings is she blows them up at like Kinko's or something like that, and then draws from that onto a wooden paneling. So we really like the drawings because that's how she's able to layer and multiply them. And so we took a scan of one of them and had a digital separation done that we could burn to the screen.
And then she came in and used like real gold leafing and bronze leafing, and mixed it up with transparent base for screen print in the background. So each one was different. She actually hand painted on the screen itself, and then we pulled it, hand painted it, pulled it. So each one was unique. And it's really gorgeous when you look at them up close, because like the edges of the paper are kind of like oxidizing, you know, blue oxidation on it and stuff from the metals.
Yeah, and just like one thing we learned from this print was that we love as artists the idea of making each one unique and different. But then when people come to look at them, we have to show them 100, not 100, but we made an addition of 40 prints because they want that one that connects to them.
People always want the one that's framed, and then they see all the other ones. And so I don't know. It makes us question doing unique editions like that.
Yeah, it's like that fun thing that Ryan and I are always in balance, because I love like everything, and like I want to go pop and like bright colors and like craziness, and Ryan's much more into the conceptual stuff and like serious. So we end up with this like great balance sometimes.
So we just put this print out with Isabel, I guess it was just earlier this week, a few days ago.
Yeah, literally like 6 days ago.
Yeah. She came in the studio, I think we finished this edition the night before we left for SGC, so it was a big push to get this out there. This was her first ever screen print that she's ever done. She's known for her big murals in Venice that she does all over town.
Yeah, but she focused in on one part of Los Angeles, because Los Angeles is huge. Like, just like Oakland is actually huge, and there's like a redwood forest in Oakland, or that you can come to the compound gallery. There's like so many parts to it. So she really just focused in on Venice Beach and creating these murals, and they're not illegal. She would ask business owners for permission. And her guerrilla characters really became part of the vibe of the city. And so she's doing them and building up this repertoire of the characters in different stores and on different buildings, to the point where Saatchi Online, like this huge website for selling art, said, we're opening a building and we want you to do a mural, like a giant mural inside of a gorilla drinking coffee. So she does the mural, and about 2 weeks ago they send out like this e-blast to like 1.2 million users on their site, saying like, our featured artist Isabel Alfred Lago is here, and she sells out of all her paintings. Wow. From all over the world. Yeah, and it's pretty amazing like how that site works, because you list your art, Saatchi takes only 30% versus the traditional 50 or 40, and they print out the shipping label for you, and you just have to package your art up and send it to your new collector. So when she told us that, we're like, we have to make a print. Like, I've been writing about her for like 3 years, and just following her, just seeing her like just focus on this area and grow it and grow it and grow it. Like how you guys have done here, just like constantly growing, and then the takeover of the building next door, and this like beautiful studio that you guys have built. It's so awesome. So yeah, she came to the studio, had no idea what she was doing. We're like, here's some pens, just draw it. And she ends up drawing this epic print called The Boys.
6-color screen print, and yeah, it was a fun one to work on, for sure. So
And it's cool how like Ryan did this like blue, light blue to dark blue fade, which kind of makes it like this 3D, even though it's all just one layer.
Did you do that in one pass with this?
Yeah.
Where's the 6?
There's 2 colors on their chest.
Okay.
2 colors in the blue, the dark blue, and then the gold background.
Yeah, all of we instead of like using like different colors of paper, we always use white paper, and then the artists can choose their backgrounds colors, because then Ryan can get it super consistent, because he's a wizard.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
You get a big part.
Yeah. And last but not least, we brought for you one of Ryan's personal works.
This is I've been doing a thing where I do a print a week for this whole year, which has been kind of a challenge, but it's a big push. So every week, every Friday, put out a new screen print, release it on my website for sale, edition of 40, and just to do like a drawing a day or like a painting a week, and just constantly putting it out there, and not just like the image, but like how you're doing it and the whole process.
And that's how a lot of these artists have built up their Instagram followers and their Tumblr followers, just by posting something new all the time and every day. Like Gregory was the ultimate example for us, because we thought like you can only post the one thing you've made once, and then you'll spam your own wall. But the truth is, like, the likelihood that all your followers will see that one post is really low. So you have to just constantly post the same thing and just take photos of it from different angles and stuff like that.
I'm sure everybody sees it.
Yeah, and then everybody sees it. So like, it's kind of fun because it forces you to constantly make new work too.
Yeah.
But this print glows in the dark.
Oh yeah. The blue or the sky? The whole thing actually. And then the blue is over top of the glow in the dark, so the blue has like this weird sparkly blue when it glows.
And Ryan has another print that's thermochromatic ink, so it responds to heat. So like if you put your hands on it, the print is like a kind of a starscape night scene. When you put your hands on it, that completely disappears and reveals this funny message that says delete my browser history. I don't know what Ryan was looking up. But we could never get our hands like warm enough to like make it work at next use the eye. Like it would only reveal parts of the message. So it's kind of funny to have everybody standing there. Like, yeah. Like it's that cool thing where you could actually touch the print.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Questions?
Yeah.
So your studio's in LA?
Yeah, right downtown LA.
Okay.
In a place called the Brewery, which is this epic complex. Yeah, it's really fun. And then twice a year there's the Brewery Art Walk. So we'll open up the studio and showcase all the new prints that we've made and stuff like that. It's really fun to like interact now with people. I mean, you guys know, like, it's interesting to have like, there's the online people who buy, and then when you actually get to meet them in person and see what they're actually like, it's so interesting and cool. Because they tend to be like, kind of like us, they're like, most of our collectors are young people who love art and they're fans, but they could never buy the original painting before. And now they can have like, essentially an original piece because of the way we make them. The screen print is what it was intended for. It doesn't exist as anything else but the print.
One of the pieces are made specifically for this need.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, rather just digital reproductions of
Yeah, like, I mean, you could have the original, like, transparency sheets, but no one would know what your design was. It's like that guy who took the really long exposures of an entire movie. And so the screen is just white, and you have no idea what the movie was. And yeah, we're just, I think one of our focuses now has been focusing on emerging artists and being like the first people to really publish them before they start blowing up. Like in Augustine's case.
Yeah.
Sometimes we work with some more like, people like Gary Baseman who did Teacher's Pet and Cranium and had a show at Skirball, but then we'll do something really unique, like only a 2-color print when he's used to doing like 50-color prints and like all over the place. Yeah. So it's always a rush when you do things like that and they sell out like instantly. It's always really fun.
You guys have any plans to show them all as a
group?
Yeah, actually at Cal State University Stanislaus. We call it like Stanislaus sometimes by accident. They want us to do a show later this year where it's like all of the prints and then some of the originals by people. So I really want, we totally sold out at the event. We had this Michael Seaman piece where he makes these like really happy characters and then he makes sculptural versions of them. So I want to have like one of his sculptures in the space, like this giant teepee made out of skateboards. Yeah, it's been really epic. And as far as like going out to artists, we don't have this print here, but we went to an art fair and we saw work by an artist named Peter Ockhan who makes Play-Doh sculptures, and then he does like these photorealistic paintings of them. But if you just see the painting, you would be like, it's not photorealistic because it's Play-Doh. But they're huge. They're like, they're as tall as this, as tall and as wide as this piece of an oil painting. So I just sent him an email. I was like, hi, Peter, I'm Daniel, the world's most adorable art critic. I'm like, I want to make a print with you with yeah. And he's like, okay. maybe we should get on the phone together. So we get on the phone.
Play-Doh sculpture.
Yeah. And he said, I'd like to do the print, I want to work with you guys, but I'm going to be in the middle of the National Forest in Taos where my studio is. And so it's like, okay, well, I'll go. So I drove out to these like GPS coordinates, or like turn right at this dirt road and like go up this mountain and park at the third house on the right, kind of deal. And stayed in the studio, having just had one phone call with him and never really meeting him before. His family cooked me dinner. And we made a print the next day. It's like, that's so awesome that we can do that. It's like that blending of digital and analog. And especially in art where it's like such an open world where it's like most people are like, yeah, you can come to my studio. And even though you live in Los Angeles and are like miles away and we have no idea who you are.
Just show up with some transparencies?
Yeah.
And lay it out basically? Yeah,
and he was totally freaked out, like when, not by me, staying isolated, but by making the shirt. Yeah, maybe the shirt. He was freaked out by the process, because he had never done it. He was used to making these oil paintings where he's like blending colors to create shading and stuff, but he ended up making like a really awesome piece, and I got to like stay with him while he was making it, which was kind of unique. Like,
did you do the printing there, or just the transparency?
Just the transparency there, yeah. Because now he just emailed us that he had this like other cool idea of what to add to it, so it's kind of fun to like, you can constantly be evolving. Yeah, with everything when we burn the screens and print them is all done at Ryan's place, except for when we do demos. But when we do demos, we end up, I just draw them, and like the last piece we made was called the Bromance. It was like us high-fiving and holding a baby. And then of course we did like the epic fail where like we like the second color that was like a rainbow roll we put on the wrong way on the screen, so it's like totally messed up.
Very amateur again.
Yeah, but it had character. Yeah. It's like stuff with character is so fun. Like you don't have to be so self-conscious about it. You'll just release the print to everyone and they're super stoked. Yeah. Sweet.
And I missed being, your background is not as an artist, but you were...
No, it's about art writing. I went to school down the street at Expression, and I went for audio engineering. And then Colleen, the owner of the school, told me about the compound, which was really awesome, and that's how I met you guys. But yeah, I started the school's magazine and wrote all these cool articles about artists, and then that kind of like had a snowball effect to writing for like now 30 or 40 different art blogs and magazines. Yeah, and then creating this identity, the world's most adorable art critic. I always dare people to challenge me to it. I've never lost.
You have to do a lot of work to create that. It was hard.
No, because what happened is I made these cards that say "Hi, I'm Daniel" with like a little caricature because I was really nervous about introducing myself to people because I totally didn't come from the art world. Like, I remember my first art opening was like going to Fecal Face Gallery, and I thought you had to like wear a suit. And meanwhile, like all these skater kids like drinking PBR. I felt like such a douche. So after that, I was like, oh, I'll just say "Hi, I'm Daniel" on the card and hand it to people. And they all were like, oh, that's so adorable. So it just like came from that.
It's gonna be great when you're like 70-year-old grumpy old
Yeah,
guy.
yeah, exactly.
It's adorable art.
Yeah. It'll like never. Yeah. 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 Or it can become the world's grumpiest art critic. Yeah. But I think it definitely gives me access to like some of the artists that we work with because they're not like intimidated. Not that I'm intimidating, but like when you hear art critic, it's kind of like, oh, judge. Like a judge is coming to my place to like see what I'm all about. What do you mean at adorable? It's like, oh, this is gonna be epic. They're only gonna write nice things. Yeah.
Is that true? Do you only write nice things?
I've written one bad review and I regretted it so much that I deleted it. But everything else was nice. And I think it was like really, it was like a rainy day. I got a parking ticket. Like it was all these other factors.
Bad day.
Yeah, bad day. And then like the show was just like a sandbag on the floor. And I was like, really? I got a ticket for this? Yeah, so, and then it's fun too because then we, again, have that whole like marketing system where like I can promote it through the sites I write for. And then we're learning like these new sites, like do you guys know espresso beans? Like EXPRESSO beans. And it's totally like this 90s forum. Like it has never been redesigned since then. And it's just full of trolls and like
Hundreds of thousands of print makers on the site. A lot of flippers, a lot of print flippers.
Yeah.
But they're all just like talking about prints and like what's upcoming and what's in the works.
I mean, like, those buy stuff and they sell.
Yeah, and they track all like the eBay listings too, so you can see like the value of the print, like how it's gone up or down. But it's one of these amazing places where it's like